welcome to the latest episode of the Property Lifestyle Mastery podcast, powered by Property Strategy, which is Jackie, Dave and Dom. On this podcast, we are talking about building a property business that really serves you and having open conversations about the challenges that come up along the way in order to create true freedom. So financial freedom, time freedom and emotional freedom. And on today's episode, we're talking about business transformation, how you can get quick, transformative results in your business, and how really where your business is at is a true representation of where you are at personally, and that if you can learn to overcome your own limits, and of which there are different techniques, some that are much simpler than others, it can really help to transform the results that you're getting. So this is Dave and I on today's episode. We had something else entirely different planned to record for this episode, and as normal I'm trying to hijack the process and the plan, and just really talk about more what's up for us. And that was, for me, everything that was going on during the week that we recorded this was leading to this episode. So let's do this. Okay, here we go.
Hello.
Welcome. This is Jackie.
And this is Dave.
And we are podcasting today from the beautiful region of Saint-Emilion in France, near Bordeaux. Those of you who are watching this, you'll see a bit of a beautiful... We thought, let's just be really pretentious about this and record this podcast by this pool because it looks really nice and it's nice here. So I have just dropped a bombshell on Dave before this podcast. We kind of have a broad plan for things we might want to cover as we go through week by week, and so we had a plan for this week, and then I've just dumped on Dave about 20 minutes ago. I don't think we should cover that. So we are taking a different route today to what we planned, so just going with the flow, because this week we have just seen so many examples of personal transformation in our clients and the people that we're working with, and it's just been so amazing to watch all that happen, and it's really been a month of transformation for a lot of people that are around us, and us kind of going, let's just dig into where that's all coming from.
Yeah. I mean, I just want to clarify, it's not the thing we've seen is business transformation, right? It's just when we do dig into it, we see that it comes from the personal, because what we've just been through is our week of every month we have a KPI week. We call it KPI calls. Everyone has to report on their businesses, tell us all their numbers, how they're doing, are they hitting their targets, successes, challenges. It's a full business roundup, and oh my god, it was some of those businesses, it was like different businesses, almost overnight it felt like, but the results they're achieving and the numbers they're hitting in comparison to what they have done maybe 2-3 months ago, it's such a shift in their businesses. Now we have this great bird's eye view of all of our clients, and we obviously are very aware of who they are and how that is impacting their results, impacting their business success. And I would say that's why your summary at the beginning immediately jumps to personal transformation, because we can see with such clarity how the individual, how their exact state of being and what they're doing in life and how they're feeling, and all of that literally is a direct reflection or directly reflected in the results they achieve in business. So it's just incredible to see that mirrored so wonderfully.
And so, as examples, what do we mean by business successes? I guess it's securing two new deals in about a month when maybe there's been a bit of a dearth for the previous few months, and actually maybe questioning if property was something they wanted to carry on with, and suddenly deals were just there and they just happened really easily. Or going from struggling to maybe raise 50 or 100k to raising 950k in a month. It's just boom. Just the shift has been remarkable. So that's kind of the sort of examples of what we're meaning when we say business transformation. But actually when you start to dig down into it, it is what's changed for that person underneath all of it. That's the really important part of it.
So where do you want to start?
So I think actually let's start with a really good quote, because one of the people that we're talking about today had just a great way of describing all of it. This person said, "It's like I've been financially constipated." And I've just taken a financial laxative. So I think that's like quite a funny place to start, really. So I think it's, when we're talking about doing property deals and raising finance, yeah, there's a lot of practical sides to that. Like how do you find deals that work for investors? How do you get their money in and out? How do you give them the returns that they want? There's all that practical stuff. But actually, when it comes to, and all the raising finance process, right, like where you're going to find investors, how you're going to take them through your investor pipeline process, which is all stuff that we can and will cover as part of this. But from a more personal perspective, like how you feel and the belief that you have in yourself through all of this directly impacts how much finance that you raise. And I think maybe a good example that I can give from our perspective is that like every joint venture partnership that we have taken on, because we work with some investors who just lend us money on a fixed rate of return, and we have other investors who we have a joint venture equity partnership with where we set up a company and they put in an amount of money and we build a portfolio together. So like it's gone from our first JV partner maybe putting in 50 like K for like that initial thing, and then it's funny, every time we've then said, our next, because you don't want loads of companies, right? If you have too many equity partners, you have loads of companies. We've got enough companies, so you've got to be really intentional about how much the bar at which you take that on, right? Yep. And what we have seen from our experience is that the amount of money we believe we can raise and what we ask for is the amount that we actually raise. Yep. And so I think that, to me, kind of links back to that feeling that you have about going out there and raising finance, and therefore how you're putting that energy out there into the world, and then that what leads to you being able to do. Am I making sense?
Yeah, I guess I'd say that looking at it from, or talking about it from the other point of view, I see it in our clients a lot, and in other people I talk to, that you can have the most amazing systems in the world. You can have all the knowledge, you've done all the courses, you've got the right mentors, you've set it all up. It's like all the answers, but that does not mean the money walks through the door. And you can basically, that's where that person, one of my clients who raised, suddenly went from financial constipation. She literally had everything. Like there was no answers, no questions not answered, but something shifted in her, and suddenly the money pours in. And we see this in ourselves. We've seen it at various points in our business, and you just that is what we talk about, personal transformation. What is it you need to change in yourself, and how do you go about that to get that money to come towards you? And I guess there's another aspect to this, is like one of the things we teach and we excel at with our clients is how to set up those systems, how to make it systemized, how to do it properly, and make sure that your business is scalable, right? That's a big foundation of what we teach. And yet there are plenty of people out there who manage to raise a lot of money with none of that. So even though that is, I think, a fundamental for your business to be sound, it's not necessarily a fundamental to raising a lot of money. So what is the fundamental to raising money? And why is it that everyone always gets blocked on the technicalities when there are people out there who are ignoring the technicalities entirely?
And with everything that it keeps coming back to me at the moment, this must be the lesson that I have to learn right now. It is the middle way of all of this, right? Because you're totally right. You see people out there with no infrastructure, no systems, no teams, behind the scenes. It's an absolute shit show, but they're just raising money all over the place, like easily. And on the other side of it, you see people who've got wonderful systems all set up, a great strategy. It's all really organised and beautiful, but then barely doing anything. Like no money is coming in, deals are not happening. So for me, you've got to bring those two things together, particularly if you want to have a nice life, and that's obviously what this podcast is kind of about, right? How do you build a business and have a nice life at the same time through all of it? And it is that intersection of both of it, which I guess is a bit of a slight diversion from where we're heading with this talk today, but like, I think you're right. It is, what does the person on one side who's got that, it's chaotic but it's all happening, versus the person who's very structured and organised but it's not? What are those two things? And I would say, let's go here. So like, I think the difference, and it sounds really boring, and I like the Jackie of a few years ago hates me right now, I think it's self-belief. And that's such a boring answer, so let's not stop there. Don't stop listening yet, I promise that we're going to get beneath this, because I think self-belief is the like, I think maybe what the world would say about it, but I think that's not it. That's like level 1, and I think it's actually a few levels below that where the issue actually is. And if you'd have asked us a few years ago, do we have the self-belief? Yeah, we do have the self-belief, like, you know, we're doing it and it's all happening, and I think we've done a pretty good job at being mostly at the intersection of those two sides, probably one of the reasons that it's worked well. Like, so actually, we had the self-belief, so maybe that's a thread of it, but I think if you go lower, I think it's that the judgment of yourself that sits below the self-belief, because really I think if you don't believe in yourself, there's something that you don't value yourself, you don't love yourself, you kind of judge yourself, and kind of that's like the river going on underneath all of it, that actually that negativity and that tension comes out when you're talking to others.
Yep. The problem is it's very, and this is I think what we're finding is it's impossible to see in yourself, right? That's a big part of it. You can't. It's very hard to self-transform for this reason, because the self-awareness to realise what is going on inside and what might be blocking the flow is so hard. You can't see the wood for the trees when you're looking internally, looking at yourself. It's a really massive, complex swamp of an exploration,
and it makes no sense. So you can't rationalise your way through it.
But then what we get the luxury of seeing from the outside with working with our clients is to see it time and time again. You can start to see people's blockages very clearly, because you see themes. You can start to see that yes, they've done everything right, and yet somehow something they're saying doesn't ring true, doesn't ring right with what actions they're taking. And then when you dissect that difference and you actually start talking it through with them, the words they say start to bring it out. And the problem is if it's yourself, you can't hear that, because the words you say are the words you hear yourself and you believe them.
Yeah.
But if someone else, you say them to someone else, you bring them out into the world, you talk to someone, and for us, we see it and you hear it and you're like, no, that doesn't ring true. There's a conflict here, there's a problem, and that's your blockage. And
on some deep level, the person knows, but it's what we're doing is just shining the light on it. And so I'll take an example that has happened in the last week, but it's not the first time. This happens a lot. Everyone wants 10 grand of cash flow a month. Why in property? Maybe it's 20, 10, 20, somewhere, maybe 5 for the more conservative people, but let's say 10 is a good average.
Good average.
10k cash flow a month. That's what I really want. Okay, great. So, we go through the motions of choosing an approach that makes sense in terms of where the focus should be, based on the skills, knowledge, experience, resources that are available, what makes sense to do from a strategy perspective to get that result. So we go and we make all that plan, and it gets to a certain point. It gets a bit, let's say, boring at a certain point, right? Depending on certain people. You've got to keep repeating what you're doing to make it really work.
I'd say it's more than boring. It gets frustrating because nothing works first time. That's not the nature of life. That's not the nature of business. You have to try, see where it doesn't work, tweak and refine, and you keep doing that until it works. That's just how businesses are. So therefore it gets frustrating.
Okay, fine, it gets frustrating. So then we get frustrated and we have this wonderful thing that's called social media. That we see all these people who are just doing everything so easily and making all these amazing results without even trying. You don't see all the shit that's behind the scene, and I promise you the shit is there. And so a part of you goes, oh, maybe it's not, let's say, doing HMOs. Maybe it's not HMOs. Maybe it's developments. And I tell you what, it's often developments. People think it's the panacea answer. I've seen people doing developments. It's not the panacea. It's just as hard and just as good as everything. Okay, so this person wants 10 grand a month income, chosen to do HMOs. Maybe let's say rent-to-rent HMOs in this example. Doing rent-to-rent HMOs, but the shiny penny of developments or buying larger HMOs in a different area kind of captures the attention, right? And because this other shiny thing comes along, it diverts the attention from making the thing that has been chosen is the path of least resistance to getting 10 grand a month. But it seems more fun, right?
To do something else.
To do something else. But actually there's because the frustration is that problems are presenting itself, let's say in the rent-to-rent HMO decision, and rather than solving those problems, which are actually simple problems to solve, but they're more nitty-gritty problems to solve, right? You think that doing something else is the answer. But the problem is you do something else, you go for a certain period of time and you end up in exactly the same place again. So then the question becomes, do you want 10 grand a month? There are two hands here. Jackie's raising two hands. Do you want 10 grand a month, or do you want to be excited exploring HMOs? You want 10 grand a month, right? So why the hell are you chasing development opportunities which is not aligned with your strategy and sabotaging the thing that you're actually telling me 100% is the main thing that you want?
That was scary, Jackie. That was the scary Jackie. We all try and avoid that moment where she turns into the beast. Just to clarify.
But sometimes the beast is required, right? Because everyone, people say that they want something, they're going out and getting it, and they're sabotaging themselves from getting it. So someone has got to kick some butt and get people back on track.
I mean, I'm not saying it's not true.
I'm coming for you as well, Dave.
No, you're right. So, coming back to how that fits with transformation, what you're describing there is the repeating pattern of self-sabotage that a lot of people go through.
Yeah.
The frustration of following the same pattern that doesn't get you to the results you are saying you want. And I guess what you're coming at there is the difference between what you say and what you do. And that's what we see a lot. When there's a major conflict where we can see there's an issue that needs to be resolved, a blockage, it's usually that the words do not match the actions. And that's it. As soon as shiny penny syndrome is an exact version of words not matching actions, because people kind of just follow something that with their actions that is exciting, but at the same time saying that they want, what they really desire is cash flow, right?
Yeah.
And it's just and they ignore all evidence to the contrary.
You're right. And that's kind of where we run this program called the Dealmaker Accelerator program, and it's myself, Dave, and also Dom. We're running it together, and we kind of wheel each other out at different points, right? So, if the deals aren't working, we wheel you out, and you get to the bottom of those numbers, and you make it work from a business model perspective. Or maybe someone is kind of getting in their own way from a mindset perspective. We'll wheel out Dom. But when someone is saying one thing, but they actually have told me something else, that's when you guys wheel me out. And people know they're going to get their ass kicked a little bit. And it's not necessarily a conversation that at first people want to have, but actually it's funny, like when I have those conversations, you can see the tail just go a little bit between the legs, right? Because on one level, they know this to be true.
Yeah.
But then what comes out is when you have that conversation is, okay, but I can't do, in this example, rent-to-rent HMOs because... and some reason, insert reason
raspberry.
Here. Yeah. And when that reason comes up, that isn't again the actual reason. It's something else, and like quite often it comes back to this self-sabotaging point where they don't deep down believe that they can do it, or it brings up fear or some kind of uncomfortable feeling. So you kind of don't want to go there, but then that sabotage is the thing that you actually want. And I think coming back to where we started this whole conversation, we're seeing the changes in people where this is not true. And for me, that's, if I look at, some specific examples of where there's been amazing progress over the last month, I think there's all of these people, we've kind of been bringing on more and more of this journey of making them more self-aware of what they're doing to themselves, and actually helping people to realise that the reason that there are business challenges is actually not to do with the business, it's actually to do with you. The business is a reflection on you.
Yes.
And so therefore, what have you got to confront maybe within yourself to let that go? And I think there's, for example, one aspect of it is that if you don't really feel great about yourself and, love who you are, and feel comfortable just putting it out there to the world because maybe you're afraid of people judging you or people saying no to you. You ask for someone to invest and they say no, and you take that as a direct judgment on yourself not being good enough. That's like a big hit to your personal ego, which isn't, then you're going to hold yourself back from doing it, because actually on a very deep level you really don't want to get that no. So therefore you hold yourself back. So when you then start to maybe confront the thoughts that come around, actually I'm judging myself for this, or I don't like myself for this, I don't actually really love myself, then if you can start to become aware of that and shift those negative feelings that come up around that, and just feel great no matter what happens. And you just start putting stuff out there, you start asking for things because you don't care if someone says yes or no. That's, I think, where the real shift starts to come in. And furthermore to that, how you feel through the process is really important. And I think so many of us who've got to a certain point in property, we've got there through hard damn work. And we kind of associate progress with hard work. Mm-hmm. And we just get into this kind of stressed state to make stuff happen. But that's not the place that great stuff comes from. And really then, if you're not enjoying what you're doing, it's only going to be good when you get to the outcome of 10 grand a month in this example. So therefore, you make yourself work hard, feel stressed, really, if you're honest with yourself, feel a little bit miserable deep down going through that process. And you just grind your way to 10 grand a month. And you'll probably get there in the end, but it'll take a damn long time and you'll be in misery along the way. But if you actually go, I'm having a great time. I'm having fun doing everything that I'm doing. I'm talking to great people. I'm loving it. And I don't mind if people don't agree with me or don't want to get on board or say no, because I'm having a great time. Then it shifts. And we all think we don't get to have a great time till we've got to, in this example, 10 grand a month. But actually that's not true, right?
Oh, that's completely wrong. You're right. It's like not what you said is completely wrong, but you're completely right. The thing you said was completely wrong. You're right. The whole point is you can have the fun on the way, and that's the magic. That's the magic button when you suddenly click it and you go, oh, I'm going to have fun now. I'm going to be as if I've got the 10 grand now. I'm going to live a great life now. I was just thinking while you were talking there.
He's always mulling in the background, this one. Go on.
There's a few things I think that helped us through these phases, but where true transformation happens, the magical transformation, is when you bring together action taking with the right emotional driver. What got me thinking about this was one of the best books we read for getting our business going and really forging that path to growth was Go for No. Go for No is a brilliant book. If you haven't read it, lovely book.
I mean, it's very simple. You can also just read the title and go, okay, done. But it's fine. It's a very
It's
short
a
book.
brilliantly done book, very short, lovely little story. And it's very impactful because it impacted me, just really got me thinking, where am I not going for a no? Where am I not going out there just to see if I can get a yes? And I don't mind if it's a no. It was a massive shift for me.
And basically, it's the story of a company with a sales team, and actually, they started targeting people on the number of no's that they got, not the number of yeses that they got. But the people who got the most no's actually got the most yeses. Yeah. In a nutshell.
Yes. So, and actually, that caused us to take different action, which is the route to results. Action, obviously. However, where I think that we ground our way to results through that route, didn't we? We've definitely been grinders.
Yes.
And yet, where you see magic transformation happening is when someone couples that kind of attitude of go for no with the energy and emotion of I don't care, I'm actually having a great time, because we definitely didn't have that, right? We were in control, go out there. I was always had to overcome a certain element of, it's like a tiny anxiety, a form of fear of I've got to go into this meeting. Oh, how am I going to deal with it?
Feel the fear and do it anyway.
Yeah. And actually that holds you back. That is a blocker of its own. And when we see magic happen, when you see someone just suddenly, it just changes massively, is when they're taking that action and they feel great while they're doing it. I think we've definitely seen that. The lady this month who's suddenly gone to raising 900k or whatever in a month, her attitude is hugely different. She's
just radiating joy,
and she's like, I don't care if I don't get anything, it's fine, I'm
having a great time,
having a brilliant time. And God, the results are so different. She's not worried, she doesn't care, she's
but not in a, and I think this is hard because we associate don't care with careless, not being conscientious, and then we make this really big leap to go, if I don't care and I'm not conscientious, then I'm not doing a good job, I'm being somehow irresponsible through all of this.
Yeah.
And I think we've definitely done that. We've kind of, in some really messed up world, corresponded worrying about things and being anxious about things with doing a good job. But it's not true, because when you're worrying or being anxious about things, you shut off to possibilities. It's like you get from a body perspective, you shift yourself more into that kind of fight or flight response,
Yeah.
which narrows your awareness, and you can't see so many other options that are here. You mostly see the really hard answer to every single question, which involves a lot of hard work. But actually, there are so many options where it is not hard work. It's actually really easy. But if you come back to where the conversation was before, which is on a deep level, if you don't feel good enough, you feel that you have to earn everything through hard work.
Yeah.
And that somehow if you don't work hard, you're not entitled to the end result. And that ties into a load of other things as well, that actually we're also a bit scared of what happens if we genuinely get this. Like, what's going to happen to our relationships in our life if we go from someone who's financially struggling to being financially abundant? Like, how would you feel if the people around you didn't change correspondingly? And would you say, actually, I have to wait for everyone else around me to feel abundant too, for me to feel worthy of doing that? And that holds you back subconsciously.
I think there's another one as well that I've come across, which wouldn't, because I think you keep going back to feeling unworthy or feeling not good enough, and I actually think some people out there don't have that feeling at all, and they don't even like it's.
I think
it
some
isn't the
people
driver.
don't have it, but I think it's not that many people. I think it's a minority. I think those people who think they don't have it, majority of us do have it. We just haven't quite seen it through the right lens yet.
No, but
Sorry, go on.
Thanks for just trying to trample my point before I've even made it.
Sorry.
What do I have to deal with here? What I was saying was I've definitely had clients that I've worked with where they don't have any obvious self-worth issues, and there's no blockage around that. So the ability to go out there and go for no, the ability to go out there and do all of this stuff we've just talked about, no blockers, no issues whatsoever. But where the blockages occur still revolves around fear mechanisms. And it's usually around elements that they have defined their personality by. So we suddenly become stuck, and you've basically decided, this is who I am, this is how I've got to where I am, and so therefore this is a good thing, and even if it's not a good thing, I don't care because it's who I am. Now you have a stuck personality type, right? You've got a blockage. You're stuck in that state of being. And where I've seen that in a client is where the business is growing amazingly, everything's flowing amazingly in the business, but they cannot hire a team to support them. And it's because of, and this is where actions and words don't match up. Like what I'll hear from them is, well, why aren't you hiring? Oh, I just don't want to have to manage people. Oh, I'm scared of, not scared, I never use the word scared. This client would be like, I don't really want to spend the money on it, right?
Yeah.
And actually, one I hear a lot is things like, do you know what? I'm just not doing it because I'm stingy. I'm a stingy person.
Oh, I'm too busy.
Or I'm too busy, right? You hear these, whatever the phrase that they use, and when you hear it, it's like the front that they're going to put out to the world as, this is who I am, this is the thing, and I'm happy with that as a blockage. And I'm going to stick with this, thank you very much. So it's literally out in the open. But there is always a fundamental driver to that, and that's where the self-awareness comes from. That's where all the work we've been doing on ourselves and with our clients, when you drive down underneath that to the deep down, you suddenly find where that block is coming from, and if you can overcome it, you just open up, and suddenly there'll be a magic transformation.
And the transformation is instant, right?
It is.
Like, it's not hard work. Like, it's really a shift in perspective and looking at a part of yourself that you really don't want to have to look at. Do you not agree? Yeah.
Or you can't be bothered to look at, or you think you're stubborn enough to think that you don't need to look at. Like, there's all these things that will be in your brain as to why you don't want to look at it.
So fascinating. So let's try and maybe bring this back to maybe some of the key, because I feel like we've spoken a lot of words around all of this, trying to bring it towards something. So maybe what are the key maybe changes that have driven some of these recent transformations? Actually, I think about the people who I've particularly seen change in over the last month, and actually I think the changes really started, where are we now? Maybe more like 6 to 9 months ago.
That's the beginning of it.
That's the beginning of it, because we ran a retreat. It was the first retreat that we'd run as part of our program. It was a new innovation, and it was the first time that we started to introduce a lot of these ideas really to our clients.
Yep.
And I remember it was really funny. Dave did a session, and everyone's so used to when Dave does a session, he brings up a spreadsheet, he gets really detailed, it tells you all this work that you've got to do. And so we kind of like played along with it and we made everyone think that's what they were going to get with Dave. They were like, get ready for the session with Dave, get your laptops out, he's got a really in-depth spreadsheet that he's going to show you. And that's not what you did. You did a session about realise, I don't know, do you want to summarise maybe that session?
Oh my gosh, can I remember? Basically feeling great regardless, whatever happens.
It was called How to Feel Great About a Down Valuation.
Yeah.
And the idea behind that was actually when you feel bad because something doesn't go your way in the business, it's a choice how you react to that. And then you just went through like a lot of like what quantum physics.
Well, I went through the neurological and chemical reasons that we feel emotions and kind of what that means from a psychological stroke chemical aspect of the body, and therefore how you can evolve that yourself, how you can choose to evolve that. But regardless, the fact is we introduced these ideas, this sudden transformational ideas to our clients 9 months ago. And that's when they started the journey. And it didn't happen overnight at that point, you're right. But then when the results come in, it's when they finally click. The reason it didn't happen overnight is because it takes a while for ideas to settle in. It takes a while for you to work out how they implement with you and like work through your own issues. It just takes time because you don't just hear something and immediately go, oh, I know how to implement that in myself. That's done. I'm sorted. I'm cured. It doesn't happen. That's why
you
therapy.
have to hear things a few times.
Yeah, you have to hear things a few times. You have to work it out for yourself. But then when it worked out, right? When someone works it out, boom, magic.
Yeah, and like one of the people that I'm thinking about has gone from questioning if property is the path that she wants to carry forward with to just going, yeah, like I'm totally in. Like let's do another like 6 deals over the next year, 6 or 8 deals over the next year.
Yeah.
And like she's back just loving it, and it's just happening easily. Or clients who've blocked themselves from a money perspective, and I think it's interesting. We say we want to have more money, but then we find ways to not let ourselves have more money. Like the like narrative that we're putting out there is there isn't enough money, and you kind of put yourself in this scarce mentality. And the funny thing is, when you're in this scarce mentality, life essentially just finds ways to prove to you that that is true.
Or at least you only see the reality of that being true. So life always presents everything, all the options, but that's where when you narrow your focus with the stress and you're very focused on the problems, all you see is the problems and you can't see what else life is presenting.
And for example, like we've had someone who's has been saying cash flow is the most important thing to them for probably similar around 9 months, I reckon, maybe longer, and actually had tens of thousands of pounds worth of invoices that had not been sent and wasn't sending them because didn't feel that enough value had been given, or what other getting in your way reasons were around it, and yet was struggling with cash flow. Like the answer is there. You just got to overcome that feeling that is coming up for you and preventing you to do that, and the money's there.
Yeah. And then that's it. Life gets easier.
Yeah. So, in summary, from this conversation, personal transformation leads to business transformation.
100%.
Business transformation in this setting is raising finance and doing more deals far more easily.
Yeah.
And having a lot more
having
fun.
the life that you want while you're doing it.
Yeah. And in order to get that, really my main takeaway is that you just, actually there are 2 things. Have more fun along the way.
Yes.
Enjoy it.
Yes.
Enjoy everything that you're doing. Find a way to make it fun and figure out what you've got to confront to let go of the worry, the anxiety, the incessant need to be working all the time.
And I guess one of my learnings, or our learnings during that process, has been to enjoy everything you're doing does not mean to single out all the things you don't enjoy and just get rid of them. That's a massive, yes, that's the easy route.
No, not necessarily.
Right. It seems the obvious route.
Yeah.
It's the obvious route to try and enjoy everything you're doing, but it's not the route. It doesn't work. There's always going to be stuff that you ostensibly don't enjoy. So just find a way to enjoy the things that you are doing, regardless.
Yeah.
That's what you've got to work on.
And then find a way to become aware of what's going on within yourself, not in the external world, what's going on within yourself, and just start to let go of that, whether that's, stuff's coming from a place of not enough self-worth, or fear of failure, fear of change, probably a lot of things that on a rational level that you don't think do affect you. I would have said that a few years ago for sure. Yep. But now I know 100% there have been massive self-worth issues from me, which I have managed to use hard work and success as a kind of addiction to hide from. So just find your own mechanism of becoming aware of this and being able to work through it, because that's the stuff that's the real blocker. And when you start to let go of that and have more fun through it, the results just start to happen. It doesn't happen once you get to the result that you start to be happy. Yeah. It's when you can do it along the way.
Yeah, and I'd say basically if you're looking at your business and wondering why it's not doing how you want it to do, if it's not evolving or growing in the way you like, it's not going how I want, don't just look at the business. First step is to look at yourself, because just remember that business is a reflection of you. And in theory we all have the potential to be a Branson. We all have the potential inside to be one of these top incredible entrepreneurial gurus. The difference between us and them is not the business, it's the person. And we all forget that. We think that they've done something, that it's the business, but the fact is it's them that did it. It's their choices, their actions, everything they did was the reason their business ended up where it was. So therefore the first place to start is not the business. Focus on you, work out what's going on inside you first that's stopping you from taking the actions that are going to get you there.
Well, there we go, business transformation. I hope you enjoyed listening to that one today. We touched a lot on about raising finance and that being an important part of that growth of the property company. If that's something that you want to focus on, we're running a new workshop in the autumn called the Raising Finance Formula. You can head on over to our website, property-strategy.com/RFF, in order to get the dates and all the info. It's all about removing your financial blockage to doing more deals. So you can go and check that out if that's of interest. Next week, I am delighted to be welcoming our first ever guests onto the Property Lifestyle Mastery podcast, Hannah and George of Dugard Property, who have shared some amazing insights about the red flags that show that burnout is approaching, and how you can make sure that ultimately, even though it's really awful to go through, that you can really come out stronger from the other side of burnout, and a really clear path to do that through focus and doing less. So I'm really, really excited to share this one. So until next week.